Hey, what's up, everyone? I am Daniel Larson here at Resi. My buddy Nate Anderson is joining me.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
All right. Hey, you know what? Nothing like a quick start.
Yeah.
You know?
I was just about to say we are tremendously out of focus, actually.
Are we? But now we should be okay.
Looks like Robert is in focus. I might have
Hey, that's a great segue. We are joined by Robert Roy Jr., but we're going to call him RJ today. He is from Vox Church. He is the central production lead at Vox Church. And so, Robert, how you doing, man? Awesome. Yeah, so glad that you're here instead of, just worrying, just sitting there worrying. We thought we'd fill your time a little bit to help you out
today. Yeah, keep my mind off of things a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Well, again, thank you so much for making the time to chat with us today. And
thank you for having me.
Oh, of course. We're just, kind of the point of these is to, as Nate would say, eat our own dog food, which I'm not a fan of that visual. But, we are a streaming service and we want to just, really try to provide some value to those of you that are watching. Nate, we doing okay over there? I think so. That's all right.
We're doing great. Sorry.
I just feel good because there's a bunch of production people watching this, and they totally get it. So
Did you try turning it on and off again?
Hopefully.
You know the drill.
Yeah.
All right, RJ. So let's just dive in. We've got a couple questions prepared, but of course, we'll hold those loosely as our conversation continues. But who are you, and what's your role, and can you tell us a little bit about Vox?
Yeah. So I'm basically what's called the central production lead. And so I kind of oversee all our campuses. Vox is a multi-site church. And so I oversee both the teams and the systems side of things. And then there's another one, counterpart to me is Alexis. She is also a central production lead, and she oversees all the broadcast elements. And so, yeah, I mean, I grew up in production. I majored in audio, was at a church before Vox for about 8 years as a production lead. Transitioned over to Vox after I got married to my beautiful wife. Been here for 3 years. And just oversee and play with equipment and get to lead a great team and build a great team. So
that's awesome.
I understand you and your wife have something pretty exciting coming up here today or any minute now.
Yeah, you were fixing the camera. I was saying
we talked about it.
We already been there. That's awesome, man. Congratulations.
Any minute we'll have my first boy. So
man, congrats.
That's so great. Yeah. So great. All right. So Vox is a multi-site church. Tell us a little bit about the vision of Vox and kind of what you guys are all about.
Yeah, so our goal is to see New England transformed from the least church region to the most vibrant, vibrant region in the United States in our lifetime. And so our goal is to reach basically from Connecticut all the way up to Maine and plant churches and not like, I wouldn't say huge campuses. I wouldn't say like 15,000 people campuses. I would say like 300, 500 person churches in every city. And so by doing that, our goal is to reach 1% of New England, which then could change the region for the gospel. And so Vox is a multi-site church, like I said before, and we are just basically just expanding, just looking for ways to, to continue to push the frontier, partner with churches in the region, and just continue to see that mission push forward.
Wow, that's so cool.
It's awesome. For you and your role there, obviously with production, how does that tie in, and what are you guys doing as a production team in order to move toward that vision?
Yeah. That's a very multifaceted question, because it can range on the system side of things. It's creating simple systems that are able to expand very quickly and be deployed very quickly. On the team side of things, it's developing people, developing the craft, developing their skills. You get, a typical, 40-hour week person is doing 40 hours a week at their job that has nothing to do with production. But they have a heart and a partial skill of wanting to be an audio tech or wanting to run a camera or wanting to be a lighting tech, And so it's like pulling on those skills and really like developing them as a person, for those skills, but then most importantly, like developing them spiritually too. And so like our production department, we try to partner with the campus pastor to do both those things. When a campus pastor goes and launches, a church, when we go and launch a church, the goal is to launch it with the most simple systems that we can create so that the volunteer doesn't really have to think about it. And then at the same time, bring support in training and discipleship, so that we know that the person is, being cared for, as well. So
it's awesome. Seems like team is a big part of what you guys do, caring for your volunteers and making sure that they're 100%, which will then help you guys, reach your community better that way too.
Yeah. And it's a growing process. We're still young. We're celebrating 10 years this year.
Wow.
And so it's a growing product. We like to say that we're like building the plane while we're flying.
Yeah,
in the
of
air.
course, always.
Yes, absolutely.
And so, it's what we strive for, at least.
That's cool.
Wow.
Looks like you guys have shelled out a few pianos in your time too. Maybe made a keyboard rig.
Funny story is, you always talk about how, if you don't make the worship team, you end up on production.
Yeah.
That's pretty much me. So I went to a semester of college and studied worship, which was music, and I played the piano and took singing lessons, and I just came home and didn't want to spend that much money to be on campus. And so I went online, but online didn't have the worship pastor option. And so I ended up taking up business, and then I ended up getting involved with production. So, so I actually, I gutted an upright, and I pulled that out, and,
just a little reminder of your roots.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. You had mentioned
I practice the C scale on it every once in a while.
Nice.
You had mentioned before we had gotten started about how kind of Vox Church got its start. Can you talk a little bit about that? You said it was was it a band, or what was the kind of the beginning of Vox Church?
Yeah, so it started off with a band. The sole mission of the band was to see still New England changed, right? And so they would travel and they would play worship and then like give an altar call at the end and really push through to like deliver the gospel. And then there was this aspect of like, the local church is really what brings the change to a region.
Yeah.
And so they stopped, they prayed. I wasn't part of the process at this point, so I don't want to like kind of botch up the story, but basically they came to the aspect of like, hey, I think we're called to launch churches in New England to see it transformed. And so they started Vox Church, and they started off with one campus, and then they launched a second one. And then they launched a third one and a fourth one, all of those on faith, all of those, again, like building the systems as they were moving forward. And now we have 9 campuses. And our goal right now, we're building actually our broadcast facility, which we can probably dive into later.
Yeah, absolutely.
But like right now we broadcast out of a music hall. And so we load in and load out every single Sunday into a 1,300 seat auditorium, video cameras, everything broadcast to the other 8 locations. and then load right out that same day. And so right now we're building a 500-seat auditorium that will officially be our broadcast facility, which we're excited about. And we're calling it our anchor location, specifically like we're going to be able to do a lot more out of that location than we have been out of this auditorium. And so, so over the course of like these 10 years, we've seen just some really awesome growth going from, one, I guess I want to call it a dream, but one aspect of like launching one church and then going, hey, let's try this multi-site model, and then launching another one, and then another one, and another one, And so now we've just seen God's hands and grace on it. It's just been an awesome ride. So
it's awesome.
So obviously with that kind of growth and, that vision of, where could this thing go, and launching multi-site churches, systems, production, like obviously plays a huge role in that. So one of the questions we love to ask is about workflow and, kind of like where are you guys at, in your current state where you guys are a load in, load out production. And then, maybe even, tease us out a little bit with, kind of what's coming down the road with your new production facility.
Yeah. So you kind of want to know, so we have, you're saying from like the system side of things.
Yeah.
Right?
So system side of things, like what kind of cameras you guys using right now?
Yeah.
Where do those go? What's your switcher of choice?
Yeah. So right now we kind of inherited a Blackmagic system, which by all means is not bad at all. And so it's been great equipment. We have a 4-camera shoot right now. And so we have 4 Blackmagic Ursa Minis, Canon lenses, all those go into a 1ME switch. And basically we have a case, which we deem mega case. It's this like massive, I don't know, 5 foot wide by 3 foot deep case that we roll on and off the truck that hosts all our video gear, including our Resi encoder, including our Resi decoder.
Yeah.
This is Resi, right?
Yeah. You're right on track.
Okay, good. Okay. And then wire everything into that case Sunday morning, make sure it works, and then when you're done, take all the wiring out and plug it back in, or plug it back in the next week, and so that's really our system right now. We don't iMag in the room, so that's really just slides. We do use like lower thirds, ProPresenter, all that type of stuff. But we've really like pushed the system to its limits. As far as like how much you can do with a 3-hour load in volunteers.
Right.
And so that's why like we knew this before. I mean, we knew this probably a couple years ago. But like, knowing it and then actually being able to build a building is 2 different things.
Absolutely.
And so we're going into a 500-seat auditorium. We're looking to upgrade to a 6-camera shoot. We looked at, okay, if we're going to swap out a camera body, now's going to be the time. So do we want to? Do we like the look of Ursa? Do we like the look of, other camera bodies? All of which have their benefits and all of which, have their different style. It's all preference. And so we decided to stay with Blackmagic, but then now we're upgrading to a Ross system. And so we're really looking forward to like the capabilities of being able to have that on the video end, to be able to just be able to do things and set things up during the week and test things during the week,
right,
that we know that will now work on Sunday morning.
Yeah.
And so,
what frame rate are you guys shooting at?
Right now we're at a 29 frame rate, but we have been talking about swapping to 24.
Nice.
So yeah, we want to get more cinematic than actually live video. This is actually our video gal. Come on in.
Video guy.
Gal. I said gal.
Yeah, actually, I was gonna ask you guys about like kind of like the style when it comes to. Hey, Alexis, right?
Yeah.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you
Thanks
guys?
for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me pop in here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, kind of the next question was like, how do you guys define Vox's style when it comes to the broadcast and what you guys are trying to achieve, and what are you excited about, kind of moving into your new broadcast facility here coming up and being able to kind of push the envelope in a way?
Yeah, our style. I think I come from a heavy film background, so I've always loved the cinematic look. So as soon as I got this job, that was like, I love like just the, depth of field and getting the background blurry. And so that was like a no-brainer for me. But we've always had a ceiling, I think, because we've been load in and load out. So we couldn't really play with like moving camera positions and stuff. It had to be very just fast, precise, like what's the easiest. And so now I'm just so excited to have a week to be like, hey, we have a prop. Let's play with this. Like, what can we do?
Right.
I'm really excited because we budgeted a track or a dolly for this next block. And I'm like, we get to have that in the building. So
Game
I'm
changer.
just really excited. To get creative and to have the space to get creative and then figure out like how we can push the envelope on our look and make it better. Because we did hit our ceiling just being a load in and load out campus.
Yeah. What's something that you guys are like most excited about or most proud of, like from a broadcast or video perspective coming up in your upcoming plans?
I mean, they just said it. I mean, they're getting a dolly.
A dolly.
How much more excited can you get?
And getting a control room.
Yes.
Nice.
So excited.
Yes.
That's awesome.
You need to see this thing we have. It's called Mega Case. And it's
We were just hearing about it.
And I literally sit in front of the house next to the lighting console while the band's playing and everyone's yelling on comms, turn your comms off, nobody can hear. And so I'm just so excited.
So you're one of these directors that stands up and snaps while they're directing, gets really into it.
I do.
Yeah.
She doesn't snap as much as she just bounces. She like beat of the music.
I do, because the beat of the music gets you those shots, right? So if you're beat, I'm like.
Do you guys? Cool. I know you guys said you're a 4-camera shoot right now. Does that include any handhelds?
Yeah, it's one handheld. And then everything else right now is on tripods.
Sure.
And I really just want to get to the place where I have 1, maybe 2 tripods, and everything else is kind of either on a dolly or on the floor, and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
We just can't really do it right now.
Right. Is that handheld wireless, or is it wired?
No.
No, that's not a bad thing. I'm just curious. Just curious.
I know we tried it. We have to. A part of me is almost like I'd rather not go wireless because you never know when it's going to cut out.
Yeah. Right.
Usually the worst times.
It's like, it's at the worst times. We did get the backpack though, which was a game changer for my guys.
Nice.
And the little hook thing.
Oh,
the easy rig.
The easy rig.
Oh, that's cool.
That's cool.
Yep.
I had this situation at my old church where we tried wireless, we tried a tear deck, and for some reason it took about like 20 seconds to get established or something. This was like right when the first one came out. And
early adopter.
We had our Easter deal, and I forgot to tell our camera up to turn it on until like about 5 seconds. Or it was even less than that, like right as the countdown was ending. So those are fun. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, we tried them. We actually tried them for Easter too. We tried them from the sense of like, we didn't broadcast Easter. We actually recorded our worship set for Easter, and then did some post stuff to it, and then displayed it on Easter. But for the actual recording, we did it in the venue, and we had 4 we put all our cameras on roaming at that point, and so we rented like 4 pterodactyls so that she can preview them on her monitor.
Sure.
And we liked them. That's where we learned that we like the easy rig too.
Yeah. That's a really cool look. And that's
it was a cool setup.
I was just going to say that's something too that like it's definitely been interesting to see churches kind of take on more and more of that look, and Red Rocks. I volunteer at Red Rocks, and so we had a couple. I can't remember what it was. I think it was for some live recording or something, and they had everybody on easy rigs, like no tripods. And I'm just like, 5 years ago, this would have been crazy, to think about doing a shoot like this. But now it's
in a
just
church setting.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But now it's a really cool and artistic way of shooting in a very cinematic way.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier, RJ, that you're one of those audio wizards. You didn't say that, but anytime someone says I'm interested in audio, I just call them a wizard because it's like a foreign language.
It's usually out of our heads.
Right.
He's so humble about it, and he'll be like, "No, like I kind of do it," and he's actually he's really good.
Here's the thing that I've learned though is that like people who are in audio know that like, okay, I'm good at it, but I'm not like professional at it.
Sure.
If you ever say I'm in audio to anybody who's not in audio, they immediately think, oh, you're a professional. Yeah. And so that's why I say I'm in audio.
I'll just say I feel like I'm talking to a professional right now. So just even if you just humor me, that'd be great. But the reason I bring that up is because especially with the past year and more churches streaming and trying to figure out, okay, how do we, now we've got video, how do we make the audio better? What do you guys do in terms of audio? Are you mixing on a DAW? Are you doing a separate board? What does that kind of look like?
Yeah. So we actually don't broadcast live. We record a week behind. And so I hope no one from our church is watching this because I feel like I might have just broken hearts.
No, you bursted the bubble.
I just bursted the bubble.
Wait, what?
We started doing that back in COVID. We would, so in COVID, we got told that we couldn't come into our venue anymore, which was our broadcast venue. And so we had to figure out, okay, how are we going to do Sunday morning service? And so we have one venue that we own that we were able to load into. We basically took over, and everything. And I want to say that our broadcast team went from doing live to being like a recording team.
Yeah.
Wow. So yeah. Absolutely.
For audio wise, we were recording initially we were recording the whole mix, but it wasn't going out live. We were recording the whole mix on like a Thursday, and then we were broadcasting it on a Sunday, which we were able to accomplish very easily with Resi. And so
way to go, buddy. Virtual high five.
Yeah, there you go. And so we went from that to then we had a gentleman in our church who would like mix down the mix. And so now we went from taking the mix from the person who's in the room to, okay, now we're going to track into a DAW and allow, the guy during the week to have a couple days that's going to go in and really get the mix sounding decent, sounding good.
Yeah.
It was a learning curve in the sense of trying to figure out where the tension lies between, okay, this is for a Sunday morning. We want to make it sound good, but it's not for a CD, and so like, it doesn't have to sound like professional. And so take that thought process, add on, okay, now we're loading back in and out in our broadcast venue. We don't have another console. There is a split snake there to be able to route into another console, but we don't have another console to really mix it live.
Sure.
So what do? So we decide to, okay, what we'll do is we'll record the week behind, and we'll record track for track. So we have a little recording rig. We purchased Personas's rack mount consoles, RM32, and so we route that to a Mac Mini, record the tracks. Monday morning, we send the tracks out to the guy who's going to mix it down. He gets that back to Alexis by Thursday, and then Alexis links it up with her video, and that's what we play back on a Sunday morning. We play back our worship and our announcements online, and then we use a Resi decoder to then swap to so that we can play back the message live. So the teaching
Oh, wow, that's
live,
cool. That's really cool.
but the like worship is actually taped.
Got it.
So,
Wow.
Cool.
Hey, way to go.
Is that what you guys are sending? I'm assuming you're just sending the message to your other campuses as well, right?
Yeah.
Got it. Okay,
Yep.
cool. So they're all doing local worship on Sunday and then taking
so the online is treated as a campus.
Yeah.
So they have like a physical rack
Sure.
with, playback for the disc to be able to play back the worship disc and announcements, and then they swap to the Resi decoder.
Got it. Very cool.
Wow.
Is that something like, obviously that model has changed, a lot of churches have started doing that, and that model has changed a lot for churches. Is that something that you guys expect to continue, or is that something that you're going to, go back to live, or what's kind of the plan there?
Yeah, I mean, that's, it's a discussion right now.
Yeah.
I mean, so we definitely
Alexis is her face is. I feel like she wants to say something right now.
No, because it is a discussion. I always have to I'm always held back on Alicia a little bit because I'm like, live. I want to be as live as possible.
Yeah.
And the worship team's like cringing.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a piece of that where it's like, so it's a discussion between like broadcast, between systems, because like when you go live, there's time orient in that.
Yeah.
Like there's like, you can't go over on certain things,
Right.
especially when you're like trying to make sure that campuses are firing at the same time that online is viewing, right?
Sure.
See, he's the realist. I'm the one who's like, we can do it. It's gonna be great.
every team has both. So
Right.
you guys are right on.
That's where we complete each other.
Yeah, exactly.
But then there's also like, to be fair to the worship team, like they have volunteers that are same thing as production. Like you have guys who are, doing 40 hours a week as a teacher and then coming in and playing guitar on a Sunday morning.
Sure.
And like audio for live is a little bit unforgiving.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
Just a little
so
bit.
yeah. So, there's different ways around that, of course. There's, tracking into the DAW and then doing it post, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's having plugins on the front end and having a whole different console that mixes live. There's, playing tracks as well, along with the worship band to make it sound more full, and so there's no like one cut way to do it.
No.
It's really, what is going to make it easier for your team,
Right. Yeah.
and what's going to produce the best for your church and what
Right.
you're looking for.
Yeah.
Because there's certain churches out there that think, okay, what I'm producing is for in venue, and whatever I get good online, that's a plus. And so
And that's where we're at. I think the reality of like really online is just a tool to get people in our building.
Yes.
Sure.
And so really that's where a lot of our like, I'm going to spend more time planning how to make campus's video look better than I will online.
Yeah.
But because of that, the bonus is online would look good because of the time I've put in for campuses.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
and I love, out of everything that's kind of came out of the pandemic, I love that those discussions kind of feel like they're happening now.
Right.
Where, a year ago we had to make some very quick decisions just to get things rolling how we needed them to not just supplement but replace our physical buildings. And now we're having these discussions now about, what is the purpose of online and how do we think about that and how do we produce that?
One of my favorite, kind of discussions is like now the relationship between broadcast and lighting. And it's like before it was like, as long as it looks good in the room, like online's okay, like at least they can see people most of the time.
Yeah.
But now it's like totally different.
Yeah.
And I think even like hiring structures for churches now, right? So like
for sure,
the discussion of what's the next hire I need to make in order to benefit whatever my priorities are. So if my priorities are online and I don't have a video person, what's am I looking for that in the next hire?
And your video is only as good as your lighting.
Right.
So if your
That's
lighting's
right.
subpar, you're always going to reach the ceiling on your video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or
Yeah.
hit the ceiling.
Yeah, and so like that dictates, well, not dictates, but it informs, like what do we want as a church next?
Yeah.
Right.
You had mentioned making the quick decision, as far as like for COVID. And a funny story is when I first came on staff, this was 2 years before COVID, I had asked the question, hey, why are we not streaming online? Like, it's easy, it's simple.
Wow. Yeah.
We can do it, and the answer was, and it was a good answer, was we want people to experience community in our church, and so like we don't want people to be sitting at home and never experiencing community.
Sure.
Which, fast forward to now, that's why the aspect is like online is to get people in the door to experience community, because we believe that that's where life change happens.
Sure.
And so like so COVID hits, right? We have no backbone for streaming online, and I think Resi, you guys had just came out with the online streaming platform maybe a year before or 6 months before. And literally it was a phone call and a 15-minute conversation with your tech support team, and you guys had us up and running online. It took a little bit for us to figure out what how timing worked and everything else.
Sure.
But like that was a defining moment for us too, in the sense of like we were able to just immediately start broadcasting, and not really miss a beat. So thank you guys.
That's awesome.
That's
Thank you.
so great. Awesome.
Yeah.
Happy to be there for you guys for sure. Okay. So, man, there's just so much I want to talk about. But all right. Okay, I'm going to stick to the script. Stick to the script. So we're talking about, you guys kind of moving into like the future of what Vox is going to be from a production standpoint, which is like really cool. And, you guys have this opportunity to kind of make these decisions and have these kind of discussions, with all of this experience and learning from the pandemic and, what you guys want to do, and then marrying that to the vision of your church and making sure that you guys are pushing that forward. So all of that preamble is really to set up this question, like, what do you guys feel like the future of church is from a production and tech standpoint? Like, where are we headed? What is the next frontier when it comes to, digital engagement, online community, in-person community, hybrid churches? Like, what does that all look like?
Yeah. And that's a loaded question.
Not that you guys think about this stuff, but
yeah.
I think one thing that we've learned in terms of just numbers and systems and trying to figure out like how to keep on church online going is that now people are using church online to church shop.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so they're like tuning in to see like, do I want to actually go in person? And I know for us, at least here at Vox, our mission is to get people plugged into our location so they have community.
Mm-hmm.
So I know like for us, that's where we're kind of pushing the envelope, is to use it as almost like a shopping platform to get people connected to our actual locations, especially as we start to plant more churches and really spread throughout the New England region.
Mm. I think another benefit too is we get to be in locations that we're not there yet, and so like using the online platform for a multi-site church that has a goal to be in every major city in New England, to be able to broadcast and to be able to use like technology to pinpoint to those specific regions before we're even there, and so like planting the seed of just authentic Christianity and our lead pastor's teaching before we're even there is a benefit too.
I think we're also seeing an explosion of creativity. Every Sunday, I'll hop on Monday mornings when I come into the office and look at what different churches did over the weekend. And it's insane. Like you have, Mike Todd preaching in a pool.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
A boat, and then you have like people doing baptisms with the camera going into the water with people and coming back out. And I'm like, this is crazy. And I think there's just been an explosion, and we've been able to like lean off each other and figure out like, okay, in our church, each church has a story they're telling, right? And so through video and through the services we put on, and it's like, okay, that might not work for the story we're telling, but this might. And I would have not known if we hadn't had this, like everything's on the internet now.
Yeah. I think there's also, I think COVID gave churches the ability to push the envelope. And like be risky.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like they it was like, it was like, it was giving people the permission.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it was like at that point, none of us knew what was happening. You saw high-end TV shows struggling,
right?
And so like
The Voice.
That's actually
I don't know if I'd call that high end, but
we felt so much better about our broadcast. Let's be real, like for any production person. Ever. The first month of COVID was miserable. You were working all the time trying to figure out how are you going to keep church going.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I know like we hit these points where we're just tired.
Yeah.
And we're like, are we doing this well? And then we all like, I went over to him and his wife's house and we're watching The Voice and we were like,
Awesome. But I think that was, I mean, that's what happened to us. Was that we were able to push the boundaries and, and try new things and try different looks and, everything that we felt like we were risking on a Sunday morning because we were loading in and out, and you can't really take too many risks. Otherwise, if the risk doesn't work, well, that hurts all the churches, and so, so I think we're seeing a lot of churches like do that and kind of break out of the shell, and also find their own groove. Too. Right. Like we all look to the bigger churches and the great things that they do, but like there's a lot of churches out there that are finding what works for them.
Definitely.
And what works for them too. So
that's awesome. All right. So we have reached the end of our time together, but this is definitely not the last we're going to hear from you guys. It's been so awesome to get to chat with you both. So thank you for, offering up your time and, kind of helping us get to know you and, what you guys are up to at Vox.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
I got to ask RJ, any baby news yet?
Nothing yet.
Okay.
Nothing yet.
All right, man. Well, best of luck to you guys and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you guys.
Absolutely.
Bye.